It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. It's Logan Paulsen. I am Craig Hoffman. All right, final segment here, Logan. We will go a bit hurry up, which is really more 4-minute offense type of tempo here, to talk about situational football. They've worked some third downs. They've worked some third and shorts specifically. They worked some goal line. They worked some red zone, high red and low red.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a bit of a disaster before they even got to the ball. Eric Bieniemy had to get them back in the huddle.
Yeah.
It felt like every snap there for a while to just say like, hey, there's an urgency down here. There's a reason we move quickly. I asked Sam Cosmi about it, and he's like, yeah, man, like there's just an urgency about that area of the field that I think is part of it, but also we're trying to make sure that the defense doesn't have all day to adjust and you know, we want to get on the ball and we want to go. But once they snap the ball, what have you seen from them these last couple of days? Let's start with the red zone, and then we can go to the other situational stuff.
Well, red zone, I think is, you know, I watched a ton of Kansas City film this last offseason, and one of the things about their red zone, again, is the tempo, finding plays that work and finding answers within those plays. And I think you're starting to see shades of that, you know, kind of trying to manufacture relatively easy throws and relatively easy opportunities based on what the defense does. And I think you're seeing that. You know, I mentioned the incomplete pass to Terry today. Like, that was wide open, and that's all scheme, route, design, you know, and so I think that that's going to be something that I'm really excited about. Again, the efficiency needs to get, you know, one of the things about Kansas City is they're insanely efficient in those situations. They're insanely efficient in terms of getting touchdowns. I think today, you know, like you see kind of the difference, like they're good plays. You got to hit on some of that stuff and it's not like they're missing a ton of throws. I'm not saying it was bad, but like, can they get a little bit more efficient? But the concepts are there. The philosophy's there. I think you have the players to execute that stuff at a high level. So I'm excited. Again, it's just to me about taking it from like a 5 to like a 7 if we can, you know, and I think they're going to have more and more time to get that done, more and more reps. So I have no reason to think that won't happen.
Yeah, I think there's, again, the urgency of detail in that area of the field because the margins are, you know, the NFL margins are slim all the time, but they're even slimmer down there. There's just not a lot of space to operate. And you see, I don't mind like talking about this play because it's basically the kind of thing that they did in the Super Bowl twice, right? Yeah. Where they use motion to create mismatches. And, you know, it's not just like, oh, jog across and now we've changed the strength of the formation. It's like, I'm going to sprint across and snap it. Or maybe I will sprint across, stop, and then snap it. Or like there's one, you know, versions of it. And there was one with Byron Pringle today, which I think is interesting. A guy who was in Kansas City and has practiced this stuff before, where like he sprints one way, then is like, oh, I'm going to slow jog back the other way. Just kidding. I'm sprinting back this way. And like, it's a race to the pylon. And there's those kinds of things that Kansas City's been doing for years that you'd certainly expect to be in this Washington offense that apparently have made the trip from Kansas City to Washington. But it's about the execution of the details, not about the scheme. Like it's only a win with the pen if the guys execute it right.
Yeah.
And so I think that has been really cool to see. Generally speaking, I think red zone today, the offense was fantastic. You had a bunch of guys score from a bunch of different places. There were run touchdowns, there were pass touchdowns, there were rollouts, there was drop back, there's everything. So that was really good to see. Third down. What have you seen in the third down periods? Because we know that's been a bugaboo for this team the past couple of years.
Yeah, again, you see some of the same philosophy, and I think that's important, and we can't get too specific on it. But, you know, I like that there's options. I like that there's answers. I like that, you know, most teams do this, but they're working different distances to third down. They have different plans. They have different plays. Like that, you know, like there was a period last year where, you know, it's 3rd and 4 to 6, Scott Turner's calling mesh, you know, and they can call mesh as much as they want in this offense as well. But the fact that they have different formations, different personnel running it, putting some window dressing on it, I think just bodes really well. And I think they do a great job with, you know, like they're not novel concepts, but it's just like knowing what works versus certain coverages and calling those plays. Like I'm not calling one play to beat all coverages. I'm calling, this is my cover 3 beater. This is my match beater. That's what I'm going to call. You know, if we're getting pressure on 3rd and 8, I'm calling this play because it's got answers versus pressure, but I also like the concept to the right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just a layering that makes you go, okay, they're thinking about this in a different way. So
Yeah, definitely. All right. That pretty much does it for this podcast. We do have Take 5 that we will have for you tomorrow as well. So a couple of guys that have stood out that might not make the headlines, might not even make the story, if you will, but deserve some attention. So we will talk about them in our bonus episode. That's why you subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss anything any day of the week when we might put out a podcast. Next week, got a couple of cool things planned. Not ready to talk about them quite yet, but obviously they will be training camp adjacent, different angles on camp as this team continues to get ready for the game against Cleveland. And I guess, Logan, our last big podcast of next week will be a preview of what to look for against Cleveland.
Cleveland, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, it's already coming.
My boss told me today, he's like, which flight do you want to take on next week to get to Cleveland? And I was like, what are you talking about? That's not next week. He's like, oh, yeah, it is, dude. And I was like,
yeah, it is.
Oh,
Hall of Fame games tomorrow, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's coming. Is it tomorrow or this weekend? It's whatever. It's soon.
Whatever. It's soon.
It's very, very soon. So if you have your restaurant recommendations for Cleveland, for Logan, leave them in the comments.
Yeah.
Cleveland's a fun city for a weekend. There's just enough to do for like 2 days, and then you leave. Especially when one of those is a football game. But yeah, we look forward to that next week. Take 5, subscribe, listen to the radio show 4 to 7 every day on the Team 980. Watch all Logan stuff on YouTube. Anything else on the way out here, pal?
I think that's it, man.
All right, the podcast is over. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart.